Hello, welcome. We are back on the Enlightenment Exchange. So listen, before we start anything else, there are only 2 subscribers needed to get us to 100. We
Woohoo!
are at 98. So please, if you like us, share us. Like, click the little share button, send it over to Facebook or something, and ask your friends to just click the like button. At this moment, we don't even really care if they listen. Although we would like them to
We'd
listen,
like them to
we
listen.
just like to see 100.
And a lucky winner will win 20 words.
There, I was gonna say, whoa, hold on, pal. Anyway, so really, we would just like to hit 100 before the end of the year. Not just, we would like to hit 100 subscribers before the end of the year.
And then some. And Cocatina is saying something very nice about your hair, and I would have to agree.
Oh, well, thank you.
It is very pretty.
Yep, it's called Dragon Fuchsia.
Oh, lovely.
So I had to have it.
Yep. You know what? I bought incense one time, and it said the incense fragrance was called Dragon's Blood. I'm like, yep, whatever it smells like, I'm getting that.
Oh yeah, because that's it's meant to go with Dragon Blood Jasper.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah,
it smells
a
good.
lot of incenses have crystal counterparts.
Cool.
Yeah,
how about that?
It's crazy, right? Anyway, okay, so the subscribe thing out of the way. We're going to talk a little bit, or quite a bit. You know, John and I talk about, and we talk. When we talk, we talk.
This is a talk show, okay?
I know, which is really funny because there's a few things. So we're going to get into tarot and oracle reading and kind of what our thoughts are and what we're doing. But I would like to just, just kind of go over the week a little bit and it just kind of, some interesting things have come up for me. And I'm just wondering if there's other people out there that sort of feel this way or whatever. So I had a conversation with somebody not long ago, somebody who has been a client and, a listener and a friend. And she was recently diagnosed with ADHD. I think I might've brought this up on the show last week. And when she was telling me about the manifestations of that, I was like, wait a minute. Well, I have that and I have that and I have that and this and this. And so, now because I talked about it all week, there have been things that pop up. You know how, I swear Facebook hears what you're talking about.
Sure, right.
And so every time I turn around, there's some, an ADHD TikTok video, like, oh my God, my extroverted self agreed to this, and now it's time, and my introverted self does not want to go. And I was like, oh my God, that happens to me all the time. Like all the time.
That's interesting.
Wow. There's so many. That's
a good one though. That one really resonates with me.
It happens to me all the time. Remember, I've told you I consider myself a functional agoraphobic.
Okay.
And that I, live with a hermit. So I need to be careful and make sure I force myself to get out because the two of us could wind up, I never want to be that person that doesn't get out of the house because it could easily happen to me.
Yep.
So anyway, the point I really want to make is not to talk about ADHD in and of itself, but of the idea that energy flows where awareness goes. And do you remember, I know you do because we talked about it and you were actually executing it, where we talked about moving 27 things.
Yes.
And I remember you telling me how you were really having some great success with that, sort of putting that into practice. And and so what's interesting is I have been feeling for quite a very long time now that unmotivated. I didn't care. I didn't want to do anything. I just wasn't interested. And it was like my house was closing in around me. And it's not like a hoarder's house. Mm-hmm. It's not like one of those ones you see on the TV show, but there was not really where to put anything. And, the storage is at a premium and, all of those things.
Collect stuff, basically.
I'm good for that collecting stuff. And as a matter of fact, it turns out that one of the manifestations of ADHD is overspending. I mean, I was like, oh, all right then. You know, I mean, I've been known to buy things I don't need. Like,
yeah, I do that with software, as you well know.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so I just found it really interesting that all of a sudden, when I had this realization about myself, that I have managed now in this past week to clean out a cabinet. I have one of them ridiculous Lazy Susan cabinets in the corner where I keep the canned goods. And I had to start putting canned goods on top of the counter because nothing else would fit. And so I actually was like, oh my God, this is making my life so miserable. I went and I cleaned it out. I've got 3 bags of unexpired food that I'm going to take to the food pantry.
Oh, wonderful.
I've got space. I was able to get the stuff down off the counter and into the cabinet, you know. So now there's room for the slow cooker or whatever whatever I want to do.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It does. And it's like things like that I've been doing. Like I cleared off my table here, and
I did too.
I'm gonna tell you what, I knocked over a basket of stuff, including like this jobber, these things, off the edge of the table, and it went under the table, and I had to get on my hands and knees to get underneath it to get it out. It was there for at least a month because I just couldn't wrap my mind around getting down there to pick it up. So this is me actually saying, I have a lot of things figured out, but I have a lot of things not figured out. And so please give yourself permission to be who you are and relax into sort of the things that limit you. And when you do that, sometimes, because now they're all, you notice they're all up here. Mm-hmm. They're not on the floor anymore. I just focused on that corner.
Yep. You know what? You mentioned something I that really resonated with me. Been listening to Anita Morjani's, one of her online courses, and she says, when you realize that things aren't, you're not, doing what you want to do or being who you want to be, don't judge yourself. And then if you do, don't judge the judgment. That's the key.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because what we do is we kind of feel we fell down and we feel bad, and then we feel bad for feeling bad. And that right there makes it like 10 times worse. Don't judge the judgment.
Yeah, that's so somewhere along the line, I also read that taking a lot of courses is a sign of ADHD.
Or it could be people that really want to just be better.
Or it could be that you're a teacher hiding in the realm of the student.
You know what? Funny you should mention that. I did a brainstorming session on exactly that topic today.
I wonder where you might have heard that idea before. I'm just saying.
Indeed.
Anyway, that's not what we came to talk about. So
nope, let's talk about
anyway, so the idea is that allow yourself to have these realizations, whatever they might be, whether it's shortcomings or strengths, and allow yourself to figure out ways to put your awareness to where they live so that you can overcome or maneuver or say, you know what, I don't want to overcome it, so I'm going to put it out of my mind. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm just, either you have to accept it or you got to change it. Like, there's no.
Yeah, right. The worst thing you can do is rage against it, right?
Yeah, because that's just not helpful.
Nope.
So I mean, I think, that's interesting. So it's 2 things that are not helpful, and they're the 2 extremes: rage against it or develop apathy.
Yeah.
The 2 things, the outside things, are the things that are the worst thing that you can do. Somewhere in the middle, right,
is
acceptance and being able to deal with it. Either accept it or let it go. But
right,
what it is, accept that you have ADHD and let go of the idea of having perfect life. Which, what fun is that anyway? Anyhow, so okay, so moving on now, because let's get to the topic that we came here for, tarot and oracle reading. Do you remember when you first started reading cards?
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned that earlier, and I started thinking there's one thing that really stood out for me about that kind of early experience. And that was the idea that, oh, we're going to read tarot, and okay, oh, this card means this, right? Now we go and this card means that, right? And so the idea was like, okay, if I want to be a good reader, I have to memorize the meanings of all these cards, and then I'm all done, right? So that's the thought,
Interesting.
right? That's the thought. I got to memorize because this means this and this means this, right? Then I heard Radley Valentine, I think it was either him or maybe it was one of the other readers that I was listening to, but they said they went to New Orleans and got a reading from someone, and the guy said the reader gave them this whole like spot on reading about something in his life that had absolutely nothing to do with the cards. And he says, how did you get that from the cards? And what I realized later when I listened to that again, or when I was thinking about that again, is that the guy was just a psychic, and he used the cards as his tool to work with his clients, but that the cards didn't really mean this, and the card, there were not these cut and dried, this card means this, that card means that. He was actually using the cards to augment or to facilitate his intuition. And that's when I realized that's what readings are. I'm like, oh, it's not memorization. It's an understanding of the messaging.
And the truth of the matter is, my bet would be that guy could do a reading without cards.
Exactly. 100%.
The cards could be blank. They could,
Well, when people do readings with like a deck of playing cards, that's kind of what's going on. I mean, there's some numerology involved, and there's some more messaging involved, but
I know somebody that reads cards.
I love that.
Playing cards.
I love that.
Naturally, I have a friend that is a mind reader who reads playing cards. Of course I do. And he does it very well, and he's spot on. It's amazing.
Yep. I love it.
It's a bridge. That's all it is. So tarot, oracle, cardomancy in and of itself is a bridge to your intuition. It's very much like, a pendulum. Pendulum doesn't answer your questions.
Mm-hmm.
A pendulum is a bridge to your intuition.
Yeah.
A pendulum has no consciousness. It's a rock on a chain. I will beat that one until I don't know when. People give it too much power. You could use
a bolt on a piece of thread.
Right? A key on a string. It's anything. But and what's interesting is always that it's sometimes people use these things to be unaware of their own power.
Right.
For me, when I do readings, I rarely use the book. I rarely use whatever the messages are on the cards. I read tarot without having any idea. Like literally, I basically have no clue what the framework of tarot is. You know that.
Yep.
And I just haven't figured out. I mean, I figure if I can learn how to do taxes and I'm good at it, I should be able to learn the framework of tarot. Right? Like I should be able to learn it, but I just haven't figured out. Like for example, when I learned how to do taxes, one of the ways I learned how to do taxes was I got a stack of the forms and I filled out the forms one by one by hand until I figured out how it worked, until I could see the mechanism on the form and understood what was happening. So sometimes I could do it in 1 or 2. Sometimes it would take me 4 or 5. Some of the more complicated ones, like figuring out how much Social Security is taxable, that form, I don't even know anybody that can fill that one out correctly, to be honest with you.
All right, cool.
No, I mean, really, it's really, really complicated. Like, I never saw anybody get it right in all the years that I taught.
Interesting.
It's that one is so complicated, but it's okay because I figured out what was happening anyway. So there's got to be a way for me to take that sort of learning style and apply it to the framework of tarot, which I find very interesting. But the truth is, when I read cards, it's really more for the people who I'm reading for.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an idea that, I'm getting the information from the cards rather than from wherever it's coming from.
Yeah, that's why one of the reasons why I think that sure, practicing tarot readings is good because you are getting the framework, but practicing does not equal reading for another human being because you're actually pulling information out of the, out of the other side
Right.
during that reading, and which is different than practicing on your own.
Right. So when I remember when I first, before I started actually reading or even really having readings, I remember a time when I thought, I don't want to have a reading because what if it tells me something scary or something, what if it tells me something bad is going to happen? And so I held on to that for quite some time. And it was when I was trying to bring myself out of this idea that I was a sponge for negative energy and trying to figure out how I fit into this world, that I had quite a number of readings with different people. And the card readings themselves, to be honest, even back then, before I understood how to work with my own energy and lock up my energy and keep people from poking around in my energy where they don't belong, that I did not have a lot of card readings that were very spot on.
Interesting.
I don't really, and you've seen it happen to me. You've been in the room when
I've been in the room. Yep.
And so I don't really know. I mean, I really don't know what that's all about, but I remember one time I went into a place and paid for a reading. I paid, and actually what happened was I gave the guy a psychic reading.
Wow. That's like a sitcom right there. That's awesome.
I know. Well, yeah, but throw some money away. Why don't you? But then there were a couple that were really pretty spot on. So I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people out there reading that really, I don't want to say don't know what they're doing, because I think they do a lot of good work and I think they give people a lot of good information.
Right.
But,
I think there's people that are hard to read for, and I think you're one of them.
I'm just probably one of them. But I do remember this one woman, finally, because I was like trying to figure this out. Where do I fit? How does this work? What am I going to do? And she finally said, I went to her a second time. She said, you don't need any more readings. Stop. You don't need any more readings. You have the information you need. You don't need any more readings.
Yeah. Okay.
We've told you all we can tell you, and that's that old, have another reading to see if it'll tell you something different. I mean, I don't know how many, I told the story where Val, the first time I met Val, and she walked down the stairs and she said, oh, they tell me you can tell me things. And I was like, yeah, okay. So the point being, somewhere along the line in my experience with having my cards read and, picking up, even down to buying a deck, and oh my God, I bought the deck and somebody told me, oh, you shouldn't buy a deck. It needs to be gifted to you. And I finally just said, but I really want a deck, and I can't really wait around for somebody to hand one over,
These people are too slow.
Right. So, all of those things, though, there's a pretty significant list of things that are sort of, what do you call them? Wives' tales, or
superstitions. Yeah.
Superstitions, which when we talked about superstitions, we didn't really talk about the superstitions around tarot.
Surrounding the tarot decks. Yeah, I agree. And, we've touched on that on a previous episode, but there are a lot of silly things that people say that just are not true. They're just, they're traditions, but not.
Yeah, right. Tradition. Because the truth is, and this is really interesting because I've been thinking about this about myself. I believe firmly that a deck, there's one that we had, this one we didn't read together because it was still in the plastic, but these are paper and ink. How much power can paper and ink have? right?
You can start a
So
fire, but that's about it.
but wait a minute. I do believe that, right?
Yeah.
On one hand. But on the other hand, I believe that they hold the energy and intention of the author.
That's
and
true.
therefore the cards do have energy. And so, I mean, I remember now one of our favorite authors, you know, the RV guy, right, had that partner, the DV person,
Yes.
who dropped off the face of the earth for all intents and purposes when it comes to tarot cards.
Right.
And I remember people going on and on, oh, I need to replace my decks. And what about the decks and the decks and the decks? And her name is on the decks and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they're paper and freaking ink. Like, why are you giving it so much power?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing was I actually was fortunate enough to have a workshop taught here local where he taught. And so he had some of his decks that just had his name on them for sale, you know, in the lobby. And so the one that I had that had her name on it, I said, well, what the heck? I'm going to go ahead and buy a new one. He's here. He can, you know, autograph it for me.
Yeah.
Which he did, actually. And then I was like, oh.
It's different.
The energy is different.
Yeah.
The energy is different. Like, that's kind of crazy. But does that mean I believe the cards have consciousness? No, I believe they carry the energy and intention of the people that wrote it, but the cards themselves are a bridge to the intuition, you know, your intuition. So yes, they give you answers, but it's because you understand how, and this is how we get into what we really want to talk about, spreads and questions and cards. The cards, that bridge is how you get the answers to these questions. You know, that intention and the meanings of the cards have specific energies, and the answers to the questions have specific energies that match the energies of the card. So if you don't have a good solid intention for when you sit down and do a reading, that's when you get the gibberish answers, I think.
Or if you're not quite sure what your spread is, or what the positions mean, then you're not really going to get a very clear reading.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you know me, I use a rune spread mostly. Overview, action, challenge. It's a rune spread. I learned it in the
I didn't
book
realize that came from runes. It's interesting.
Yep, it's in the book of runes. And I've manipulated it a little bit to work for myself. The overview of the situation, the action, what do you need to do? For me, the challenge card, you know, in the rune spread, it's what are you going to find challenging? For me, I've shifted the intention of that. What is the universe challenging you to do when it comes to this situation? So that's how I read 3 cards. I pretty much do that all the time. So spreads
let me just say something funny that I just realized now, that I used to do a 3-card reading, which was what's working for you, what's working against you, and the most likely outcome, right? Which is a good reading. And what I've realized is that my readings now are what's working for you, and what's working for you is the first 2 cards, and then the last card is the warning. And it just dawned on me that I didn't create that spread, Spirit did, and they kept poking me to do that, and I finally kind of like caved in and said, okay, fine. The first 2 cards are my, you know, what's working for me, and the last card is the warning. And all my readings now follow that pattern, whether they want them to or not. So I was given the spread by Spirit.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it really works, isn't it?
It is, right. It is.
You know, I mean, I think so that was another thing. Like when I first started buying decks and learning about decks, that there was a lot of fear consciousness around the spreads.
Yeah,
well, here is a what do you call it? Like a poster or whatever that's got 4 or 5 different spreads on it, and that's what you have to use to be able to get good information. Like, no.
Right. But if you're in the mindset of this card means this and that card means that, and they are all 1 for 1, then your mindset about spreads is going to be very rigid as well.
Yeah, and I think that the information you get is going to be very rigid and
Yep. Kind of one
not
dimensional.
really opening and enlightening and filled with light and love and kind of the
Yeah.
things that, you know, that we're all pushing for. So, oh yeah. I don't think that I'm gonna make that comment, but we'll just
So I
keep
got a
that
question
one
for you. I have a
to
question for you.
ourselves.
What do you think of a deck with a missing card?
Oh, interesting. I
I
mean,
have an opinion on this, but I want to hear yours first.
well, I mean, so when you say a deck, a tarot deck or an oracle deck?
Let's just say tarot for now, because tarot's got the
Okay.
structure.
For me, it makes no difference.
Okay.
I'll use the deck. I have no problem with that. Why? For one, okay, I got to follow this one through. For one, I have no clue about the framework of tarot. So if
Okay.
there's a card missing, it's irrelevant. But two, I also believe that within
Hang on, we'll come back to that. We have a comment,
yeah,
but we'll come back to it.
we'll come back to that. Two, I believe that within the deck, within a tarot deck, there are multiple ways for a card to give you an answer. In other words, there's more than one card that will give you an answer that will give you kind of the same information.
I agree
and
with
so
that.
if there's one missing, then oh man. Coach and I have some ideas about that too. So
I do too.
But anyway, okay, so go ahead. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. If it was missing, I don't think it damages the reading. I think that the deck you'll make a connection with another card that will give you an appropriate answer.
Here's when I was, talking with someone about this, and this was someone I've worked with in the past who's a tarot reader. She goes, "What? You don't think spirit can work around a missing card? Come on."
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, that's essentially what I just said. So
what you were saying.
So now
on Coventina's missing card, you can write or email the publisher and say, I lost a card in my deck. And in many cases, they will send you.
It depends. Although Hay House is under new management, so who knows?
Right. Okay. So we don't know for sure, but
we don't. But I mean, it can happen. So, but I want to address the fact that now she's got another deck that's missing a card. There's a lot of things you can do with those cards. Like you could make yourself. Have you ever done a tarot vision board?
Vision board, yeah.
Like where you find the cards, significators and energy. The energies on the cards that you want to use to manifest something. I mean, there's all kind of ways to use those cards. You can use a deck of cards that's missing a card as gifts for clients, like here, put them in a jar or whatever and let them pull a card and tell them they can take it with them. Like there's all kind of things that you can do with cards instead of just leaving it feel like a gimp in the shelf. That's just a deck that's missing a card.
I want to go back to this other question. So someone posted a question that basically is kind of asking for a tarot reading. So let me just say, first of all, that both Angie and I do readings. And if you would like a reading, we'd be very happy if you would contact us for a reading. And sometimes when we do these shows, we do a reading for the room. And maybe when we do the reading for the room, you can take that information and take that to help you answer your question. This is for Alicia, who put in a comment. Why don't we do a reading for the room at the end of the show? And maybe Alicia can take that information with her.
And it would be Aisha, but yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Aisha, yes. There's no L. Sorry, Aisha.
Yep. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I have all my decks right here. So anyway, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. What time is it? Oh, we have plenty of time, too.
Plenty of time, yep.
Okay, so where did it go? There we go. A good spread helps you dial the information dial into the information the cards are sharing. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is that I had the occasion in one of the groups that I'm in that has a development circle, where you go into breakout rooms in Zoom and do readings, and the facilitator, moderator, whatever you want to call them, teacher, gives you the spread that you're going to use, like
Okay.
tells you what spread to use. So the last time I did one of these, what he told us to do was 2 cards. One is, what is something you need to let go of, and what
Okay.
is something you should embrace. And I thought, oh, that's how you get around the person who doesn't want to ask a question.
Ah,
That is a spread that needs no question,
interesting.
right? Like it needs no question. So
Right.
you could, if somebody wanted relationship information, you could apply it to that. If somebody wanted business or work or whatever, but it literally needs no question. And it, to me, and they were so good. Like, even the readings I got were so good.
Interesting. I've not done one like that. I'm gonna do one. I will do one out for myself.
Yeah, right. Well, we could do that at the end.
Or we could do it now.
About that. Just tell me what I need to know, or
Right.
tell me what spirit wants me to know, or what have you. And I don't like that, because I believe in the old garbage in, garbage out.
Sure. But asking what do I need to let go of, and what do I need to
Embrace.
Okay. All right.
What do I need to let go of, and what do I need to embrace?
Love it.
So, yeah, I mean, it was just kind of an epiphany for me.
I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do one right now for me.
Well, we're kind of in the middle of the talk show, John.
Oh,
Just
okay.
saying.
All right. But I'm so excited though.
Well,
Such a
you could
great idea.
shuffle. You could shuffle while we talk.
All right.
I think. Yeah. Oh God, I didn't know your shuffling was going to be so loud. Just kidding. Just kidding. Anyway, so it's really interesting, like, because I'm in a tarot. I took a tarot class, Radley Valentine's Certified Angel Tarot Reader class. It's actually distributed through Hay House, and I was able to re-up in a new version of it. So that's how I'm back in a development circle situation.
Nice.
But one of the modules in that class asks you to create a spread for yourself. And it is interesting to see how people kind of get paralyzed by that mission, by that lesson. And it's like, so, I mean, you pretty much use the same spread. I pretty much use the same spread. But if you were going to create a spread, what would the rules of thumb, do you think? What rules of thumb would you use to create a spread?
I think there's there needs to be a movement or a direction. So take your standard 3 card, past, present, future, right? You're seeing it's a direction, or it's a trajectory from past into present into future, right? And then the one that I do, the what's working for you, what's working against you, and most likely outcome. You've got, issues with some support, but where are we going, right? So I think the idea is that you have, like, first we had this, but now we're going to go here. So there needs to be some movement in your spread.
I think that makes sense. So here's another thing, and I don't know, what you know, or if you know, what is the significance of, for example, in the Celtic Cross, there's the cards that are piled up on each other. Why?
Because it's cute.
Okay, I can live with that. I mean, I can't,
Yep. I bet you could do that exact same spread and lay them all out in a straight line on a really big table and get the same information.
I mean, I think so, right? Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
about the intention
The intention, as long as you say,
positions of the cards,
this
right?
card is what's working for me. This card is what's working against me. This card is some energy from the past. This is card talking about the future, right?
So here's something else that just came to me about spreads. What is that show called? Agatha. It's on Disney Plus. It's the sequel to WandaVision.
That I don't know.
Agatha. Oh gosh.
Should we Google it?
Yeah, I am. Agatha All Along.
Oh, okay. I've only seen the title. I know nothing about it.
Yeah, well, it's the amazing National Treasure who is right in front of my face, and I can't remember her name for some reason, is in it. Broadway. Patti LuPone, good God, is in it, and it's witches and anyway. So in one of the groups I'm in, and I don't remember which one, you know, the Radley guy,
Yeah,
he watches it, and
okay.
he saw a spread on this show, and he, you know, stop timed it to actually get the spread. So a bunch of people were doing readings using the spread on the show, and they were like spot on and amazing. So there are some TV shows, you know, that are honoring the, you know, honoring
the true spirit of
true
tarot,
spirit of it, right?
as opposed to pulling out the death card and saying they're gonna die.
Well, I actually think I saw a clip of that show where the death card didn't poke up, rear its little head, but
that's funny because that's what all the producers do.
They really do. I mean, they really do.
Well, you know, it's like that cliche where the car is speeding and rams into something and then explodes into a fireball, right? It's a cliche. It's a visual cliche, and all the producers do it with certain things.
Well, I think it speaks a lot to how willing people are to embrace fear rather than love. You know, it's polarity.
Yeah. Yep.
But
true.
You know, that's probably just not something I should talk about at this moment. Because who knows what kind of trouble I could get myself into. Anyway, okay, so we've kind of talked about the sort of fear things and those traditions or wives' tales, whatever you want to call it,
right,
around it and spreads. And so I would like to know, like, if somebody asks you a question, I mean, I guess there's more than one kind of question, right? Like, there's, should I buy the blue car? You know, or should I buy the blue car or the green
that yes
car?
No deck that I have.
Yeah, right. I don't like that yes no deck because it tells me no to everything.
But
I mean, literally,
if they ask a dumb question like, should I buy the blue car? Hey, let's find out. No. All right.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, that deck literally tells me no to everything. One time I asked it if my name was Angie and it told me no. So I was like, all right, that's it. Yeah, I know that was a little bizarre. Anyway, so, I mean, you have yes, no questions, which everybody knows you can adapt any kind of deck to do yes, no, right?
Yep.
Like, or you could use a pendulum, yes, no, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's actually a better choice, I think.
But when it comes to asking a question, you know, like, let's say that you're going to some kind of a fair, you know, and you're going to get a reading and it's going to cost $30 for 15 minutes and you want to get the most out of your time. What do you ask?
Here's what I always do. I would say, I want some direction for the next fill in the blank, 3 months, 3 weeks, 6 months, give it a time frame. I'm most interested in the trajectory of my business. Maybe it might be a relationship. It might be
right. Now I'm most interested in blah blah.
Right, trajectory, right, and I would like to know a guidance of what to do next. So, you know, time frame, what my basic topic is, and then I want a best next step.
So I mean, I would like to focus on the next 3 months of my life, and I'm really curious about what trajectory my business is going to take, and what the next best possible step could be for me to take as it
Yes.
relates to my business. That's
Yes.
amazing.
That would be my kind of
Like,
question.
that's almost like you could make yourself a Mad Lib to put on the table.
That's a good idea.
Right? Like,
That's a good
you
idea.
could make yourself a Mad Lib to put on, put in a frame on the table. Oh, you don't know what to ask? Here.
I got an idea, Ange. We should create a deck of questions.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so someone goes in for a tarot reading.
Okay, stop. We're on air. We're on
Okay.
air. We're on air. We're not going to give any more information about that one, because I really think that's a great idea.
Okay.
In fact, can you edit that out? No.
Hey, if someone beats me to it, so be it.
Yeah, right. So be it. I think it's a really great idea, though. Anyway, okay, moving on. So I think, though, you need to write that down, put it on a sticky note or something. The Mad Lib for your question.
Okay. Yeah.
We need to remember that.
That
we
helps
need to,
people kind of
if we
framework
actually
of
had
a
a
good
news,
question.
yeah, if we actually had a newsletter, we would include that, but we don't. So
Someday.
whatever. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, okay, so now we've addressed spreads and questions.
I want to tell you a spread story real quick.
Sure.
I did a reading for a woman. It was a paid reading. She was a referral, and she was very, very, very nervous and very sad about something. She was losing her eyesight, and she wanted to know. So we did a basic reading. I did a nice, I think it was a 12-card reading, got lots of information. And she said, I really, really want to know what to do. And so I had a book with me called 1001 Tarot Spreads. And I said, you know what? I'm going to find something in here, because I remember reading that book and kind of going through it. And there was a spread about what to do when you are really distraught. And I said, we're going to take this reading. I've never done this spread before, but we're going to do another reading for you with this reading. And we're going to ask, what should you do now, given that you've, had this diagnosis and so on. And basically what it told, the end of the day, the reading was all about getting together with community and being with people and spending time with friends.
Wow.
And even though I'd never done the reading before, it was just like the perfect thing that really, really, really helped her by telling her, what you need to do right now is don't sit home alone, spend time with your friends, because that's what's going to matter going forward. So even though I had never done that spread before, it came up with such wonderful, helpful information for her.
Wow. I mean, I'm typing in
the book is pretty cool, by the way. It has like a whole section on 1-card readings, 2-card readings, 3-card readings, I think all the way up to like 9 or 10. And then there's like a bunch of readings. Yeah, there it is. 1001. Yeah, that's her. 1001 Tarot Spreads by Cassandra Eason. Then there's readings about money. There's readings about relationships. There's readings about getting a job. There's readings about, you pick your topic, any hot topic that people ask about. There are specific readings for that. And it's really interesting that some of the readings that she has or some of the spreads she has are, you only use the face cards and you only use the major arcana.
So go. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're running low on time. So okay. I just want to put this out there, because this is really cool. I knew nothing about this. There are 4 books in this series of 1001. 1001 Tarot Spreads, 1001 Spells, the complete book of spells for every purpose.
Ooh.
1001 Crystals, the complete book of crystals for every purpose, and 1001 Dreams, the complete book of dream interpretations, a dream dictionary.
Angie,
they are not.
I have to go buy 3 more books. Darn it.
I know, right? No, I got to buy 4. So the heck with you. But they're not terribly expensive. They're like $15, $16.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're good. And she's a good
I
writer
don't
too. I
think
like
I'll
her.
buy them all, but I don't know. I might. I mean, they're all, like, I don't know how I would put one beside. I should buy
good
one at a
reference
time.
books. Like, well, my exact situation. I wanted a reading that was going to help this person, and I kind of thumbed through until I found exactly the right reading. And Spirit said, yes, that one right there. And that's the one we use. So it was a
I mean,
reference.
that's really, and so, because it's really time for final thoughts, because we really went over. But I mean, I would like to really point this out, that I think if I really go back and look at the people who gave me readings that, I'm hard to read for. I mean, I admit that I'm hard to read for, and I'm a little bit obstinate, and I'm really reluctant to have anybody tell me what to do, right? Like, I recognize all that about myself. But the truth of the matter is, and even for myself, if I'm phoning it in, I don't give a good reading.
True.
But if I've sat and set my intention and figured out what I'm going to do, and if I'm intentional about the work, and I invite in and create that space for doing the reading, I believe that the quality of the work is much better. So,
Yes,
and
it
I
is.
know that there are a lot of people. Now, I'm all for shortcuts. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think there's some things, that people dance around that I don't really go for, all that feng shui, like, me. Things
Yep.
that's a little too feng shui for me.
Yep.
With that said, I think it's really important to have some sort of intention when it comes to sitting down to do readings for people, or to even receive a reading. Like, really, in the beginning, when I first started reading for people, I used to have them set an intention for the reading themselves. I am open to receive whatever I need in this moment. So I think that we sort of let those things fall by the wayside from time to time, and perhaps we're not doing ourselves any favors. Anyway, that's a final thought, and now we'll pull a couple of cards. So should we do what should you release and what should you hang on to, or
I'm going to do my standard what's working for you, against you, and a warning. So
okay, 3, that's 3. I don't know that we got time for 5 cards.
Oh, okay. All right. So
we're going to pull a card from the room. So
all right, let's pull a card for the room. One card.
Yeah, let's do one card.
All right. So this is for everybody.
What should
listening.
you embrace? That's what I'm going to do. What should you embrace?
All right.
What energy should you embrace? That's what
Okay. And let's see. I pulled the 10 of Cups, which is like all about family and getting everything your heart desires. It's about relationships. And so what I'm getting from this is that you need to embrace the family relationships. And that is and whether your family is your actual family, or maybe it's your tribe, it's the people that you really love, your friends, that's who you need to embrace right now.
Okay, that's amazing. So I think what's really amazing is that the card I pulled, so John pulled from the Light Seers Tarot by
Chris-Anne,
published by
Hay House.
Okay. And I am pulling from The Wisdom of the Oracle, Pocket Edition by Colette Baron Reed, also published by Hay House. And the card I pulled, and what should you embrace? Number 28, Building Blocks, which I find to be really interesting because, you said, embrace your relationships and your family. And the truth of the matter is, all those things are building blocks, right? Of a wonderful life. So true. What should you embrace is the building blocks that are required to build the life that you want. Relationships, and what brings you joy, and the things that just mean something to you. What should you release? The things that don't. Yeah. I mean, that's an easy polarity to come up with. So indeed. I love that. Now it is time for us to fly. So Next week is the 20th, so we're going to have Kyle Cranston on, who is an author.
Wonderful.
She's going to be joining us, and she actually also does readings out in the public, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that and how it works and timekeeping and what have you. So we really appreciate you being with us and being with us all the way to the end. If you've gotten this far and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please do.
Yeah.
Because, it would just be good. So we can hit 100. That'd be lovely. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate you hanging around. Coventina, as always, our absolute most loyal listener. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we will see you all next week.